Okay, so last week this kind of came across the radar. You had a few people picking it up, some of the content creators I watched, and of course, that was the perfect time to get in and talk about how terrible MMOs have gotten and all that kind of stuff. But let's just look at it. It is the WoW
Hmm.
raid ready boost for Dragonflight, right? And I don't know if it's a whole lot different than the boost they've had, but the marketing is definitely different. They're just saying, hey, jump in. You could just go straight to the raid.
Hmm.
Here's everything you need, and let's see what it has. You get taken to max level 70. Okay, you're gonna have level 424 gear, up to 20 renown. Okay, you're gonna have your first 5 dragon riding mounts unlocked for you. Flight pass unlocked, supplies, 30 slot bags, and more.
Dude.
Can you even believe it? I mean, I don't know. Sounds like a pretty good deal. One character for $60, 2 characters for the low price of $100.
Wow.
I mean,
Right.
it's hard to pass up. But I'll say, Scotty, what did you think? Did you have a couple characters in mind that were like, you know what? This is great. I can just skip. I don't even have to play the game and I can get to max level with all this cool stuff. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah,
When you saw it?
that was exactly what I was thinking, Tom.
Hmm.
Exactly.
I know
No, that's not what I'm thinking. This is the kind of I'm talking about. When I complain about MMOs not being good MMOs, this completely takes away from the point of an MMO RPG. An RPG is to get a character and build it up. When you just skip all the way to the end, it was like meeting the bad hunters in WoW that couldn't control their pets, that pulled every mob, and then feigned death and let everybody else die after that.
Mm-hmm.
Good
It's
strat.
just,
Good
you know,
strat.
somebody hasn't played this, and that's that. It takes away from the pure magical standpoint of being in an MMO, just skipping to the end, and it's like there's no more rites of passage. There's no more moments of really earning something. If starting that class from fresh, learning it, going through the trials and tribulations to say, hey, I've reached this top point of max level of getting gear. Now I can say I am this class. I can identify with it. And it's just gone. Now you can have a bunch of whales just buying classes, buying boosts. And I guess at this point, 20 years, everybody is kind of dicked around with the classes at some point. But I think I know the gist, or you guys know the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Do you think it messes with the community aspect at all, Scott?
Of course. I think when a lot of your gameplay loop is just playing alts, how can anybody truly have like a foundation in that type of game? It just becomes a Discord relationship, and it's just weird hearing like somebody log into Discord like, what do I need to jump on? Mage, priest, rogue, but like. And to me, it's like, I don't know, man. Just play what you want to play. And I don't know.
Yeah. And me and you had a little bit of a back and forth in the Discord concerning quality of life in MMOs, and sometimes that quality of life it seems to be like it could be removing some of that community aspect or the magic that made MMOs what they were at some point. But before we get too deep into that, man, I gotta say I'm a little guilty. Man, I haven't bought this particular boost, but I've boosted in the past. I don't know, Koltrane. I think there are certain times when a boost is okay. What do you think? Is there ever a time?
I'm watching you.
Chase, what do you think about the boost, man?
I'm watching him too.
What do you think, Chase?
I
Chase.
have feelings similar to Scotty on this. I genuinely do not like the coin system, whatever it is. I don't like. I'm playing the token. I'm playing Guild Wars 2 right now. I finally got the X packs. Same things happening. Where they're like, hey, here's this coin straight to level 70 or whatever the max level is, and I'm like looking at that coin, going like, no. It takes the entirety of the game out of it. But now you've got these new people who are jumping on like, oh yeah, I'm gonna max level, let's go, this is easy game, I'm just gonna go right to max level so that way I can start from square one. They don't have to what Scott was saying, put in the rites of passage to get to that point. Now, this is gatekeeping sounding, but it realistically is that, because then you're missing out on the adventures. I was in a Reddit forum for Guild Wars, and there was somebody who has played the game since launch, and he was saying, I've missed so much of this game because I was so focused on the min-maxing and the meta game. And I think people forget that there's so much that is lost when you just go, hey, what's the best build? I need the best build. I need to get to level, max level to just play through whatever the latest and greatest is. There is so much lost in the world and the community. It drains the community, because you've got players who just assume that, oh yeah, I'm going to get that token that's going to put me to max level, and then that way I can get all the end game content. And that's their end game. And then they go to the forums and they complain about how there's no end game. And then they complain about how there's no storyline. It's like, you skipped all of that. You literally said, I don't need to know about this. I'm just going to go. Now, that said, if you want to start an alt and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to test the waters. That's the only time I could ever see it being used. You have like multiple characters. You've gone through the story. You've plowed through all of the content. And you're like, hey, okay, I want to try this other character. I want to start from, let's say it's a hunter, let's say whatever it is, and you're like, I want to go straight to hanging out with my buddies with this level. I know how to use the skills, I know how to do all this and all that, but
that's basically
there's two sides of that coin.
I was gonna bring that up, Chase, and I want to bring that to you, Koltrane.
Ugh. Do you have to go to me?
Well, let me lay a few things out for you.
Yes.
So Chase brought it up. The factor of alts, right? I mean, if you've done all the content already, do you really have to do it again on an alt? And sometimes this is based on the type of game, right? Like World of Warcraft is an end game focused game. There's not a whole lot of emphasis on the leveling at this point, right? They're trying to get you through the leveling, because all the new seasonal stuff is for your max level characters, right? It's not for your low-level guys. Now, Guild Wars 2, like Chase mentioned, is still all about the world. So I could see if you boosted through that, you're missing out on a lot. But in WoW right now, you want to get to the max level. And this has been an issue that MMOs have had for a while.
Yes.
How do we connect the new player base to the older existing player base and get these two groups playing together?
Right.
I don't know, Koltrane. Like I said, I've purchased a boost in the past, not this one, but other ones.
All right. Well, that's you, Tom. Now, when it comes to me, all right, I, Koltrane, have never not boosted. I have always boosted. Never would I ever. I might have boosted. Okay, so here's the deal. All right.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Right. Okay, so here's the thing about the boost. All right, it's all about the boost.
It's all about the boost.
All right,
get it done. Yep.
Boosting doesn't come till later in the expansion, in the launch of a game, right? So in theory, like New World came out, right? They don't have a boost now. World of Warcraft, a new expansion, new game comes out. These boosts, they don't come around for like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. Now, why would they do that? To make money? Yes. But also, Tom, Chase, you guys are in Guild Wars 2, right? What are you guys doing every single day? You're doing max level content. I hop in, I'm level 1. I got to get to level 70. I got to go through 4 expansion packs, or I can listen to Scott type on this podcast. That's the other option, right? Right, that's the other option. Option 3.
Third option. Yeah,
third option. Yes.
He's writing a very strongly worded email to you, Koltrane, right now.
He is. You wouldn't believe the DM I'm getting right now. Option 3 is I can boost. And what can we do as friends, as heroes, as companions, is we can do dungeons together. We can do raids together. We can do everything we want together. And isn't that the idea, right? You're bringing your friend in. You say, Koltrane, you got to check out Guild Wars 2. I say, great. See you in 6 months. after I get through all these expansions and I level up and I get all the gear and everything I need, or I can get a boost and I can see you in the next 15 minutes. There's a big difference there. I'm just saying there's a big, big difference. Now, do I agree with it? Yes. No. I think it's terrible. It's wonderful. No.
Yes. No. Yes. No.
I completely get the point about you're skipping everything. You're skipping everything, right? And I will say, you can tell when somebody's boosted in the current raid in World of Warcraft, in LFR, when you see a mage who's exactly geared at 424 and they're doing 10k DPS, you're like, okay. And it's only because that individual, and I'm not ripping on them, they don't know the rotation yet. They haven't done the skills. They don't know what they're doing. Same thing as if I were to boost in Guild Wars 2. I would join you guys in a dungeon. I would be awful. I'd be terrible. So it's this fine line of you need to level up, you need to experience the whole story. But I'm thinking this is a catch-up mechanic that always comes later. It never happens at the beginning. If an MMO launched and they said you can boost to 70 from day one, that's a real problem. They don't do that. It comes months and months and months later. And I think the idea is it's used to bring friends together, community together, and to make a ton of money. I think that also is another reason to do it.
Money's the key.
For me, it's possible I might have used this new 424 boost because the raid team I'm on was like, we could use Scott. Don't leave, Scotty. Don't leave.
I'm not leaving. I'm good.
All right, thank you.
I'm here for the long haul.
All right, and it's very long. It's very long, and I apologize for that. But like in this particular case, we needed a resto druid, right? We needed it for the team. I was like, hey, let me boost and try out resto druid and see how it goes, learn the rotation, that kind of thing. So it made things a lot easier than starting from level 1, going to 70 and all that other kind of stuff. So I see both points. I just want to point out that boosts come later, and that part of the reason could be to bring friends together. You know what I mean? Something to consider.
Yeah.
It seems to me that's an inherent flaw in the game itself. Because if it's not worth somebody, so you look at games like EVE Online. Yeah, they have boosters, but I don't think for the most part, I think everybody kind of gets theirs through the years of playing. They start out as an ensign, and they move in and they continuously learn the systems. I mean, you can't just jump into that and just expect everything to be handed to you. God knows, it's just like the most insane systems ever. Whereas World of Warcraft is definitely more palatable. You could probably get most of the systems, especially for a newer player. But yeah, Koltrane, I do see your point in that sort of situation. That is but I do think it opens the Pandora's box of this. You've got the new player who's like, hey, you know what? I don't really care about the story. And they're just like, I just want to play with my friends. Okay, cool, whatever. I don't care, like whatever. But they're missing out on a lot of content. They're missing out on a lot of things that they're going to not see, even if World of Warcraft is inherently not built for that, whereas Guild Wars is.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of stuff that happens. I think in my own experiences, even in the first 20 levels of playing World of Warcraft again on a new main, those experiences in the first learning phase worlds, there's some neat experiences now. Like there's some really neat ones, especially with like Demon Hunter and like even my main, my main Tauren that I built, it was kind of cool because they had like, there's certain things that you can't experience that you won't be able to experience if you just go to level 70. It's like, oh yeah, level 70. Okay, cool. And I'm going to go right into raids. I'm going to go start doing, whatever. I don't know. It's just, I'm definitely with Scott on this. I'm really.
And I just wanted to say real quick too, in regards to Guild Wars 2, I did not boost and I'm not going to boost, even though you guys are up there and you're higher level. And the reason is for that game, like you said, it's so much about that kind of leveling process, checking out the zones, that discovery, that exploration, that the first thing I thought of is if I boost, I'm going to miss out on so much content that I don't want to do.
You level so fast in that game. Yeah, it's like you can just do point to point to point. I'm already level 30 and I've played barely 20. I think I'm at 19 hours, 18 hours. And I'm already level 30. So I'm already halfway there, or a little less than halfway there.
Right.
To max level, but
it's interesting for me that like here I am saying, like, I'm not boosting for Guild Wars 2, right? Because I don't want to experience all the story. But I did boost in World of Warcraft. And I think that the reason is, though, is I had already, like you guys were saying earlier, I had already done all the quests. I'd already done all the story. I'd already gotten my guy geared up to like 474. You know what I mean? Came time for an alt, right? That I wanted to boot up and then I could learn and get going. So I did boost. Yeah. But I am with you guys, and 1,000% agree with you, Scott and Chase. Not with you, Tom. I mean, you're lost. You are off the reservation. Like, forget about it. But it's just
boost man.
You got it right. The boost man.
Boost man.
It's so important to experience that story and what these developers and the time they put into it. And I think it could be MMO based, because I think Guild Wars, that exploration, the questing system is so built that way, where I agree. I think World of Warcraft, a lot of it is more endgame. So, yeah.
Yeah, and your situation is unique, Koltrane, too. You have a raid team,
right?
You know, a full group of people who are, you know, counting on you, and you're wanting to get this other character up and get going. You know, you're 7 of 9 on heroic already.
Right, yes.
Just blasting, you know, absolute mad lad gamers.
No, it's not that crazy. It
is. And so they need you. They need the resto druid.
Yes.
And so I get it. But I think it kind of brings up another point in the differences of the games, but also maybe it's a theme park MMO issue, you know, where you're on the rails. But I don't know if this is too controversial, but I don't even know if levels are needed for MMOs anymore.
I agree with
like
that.
What
100%.
are the levels? I guess, I mean, I understand you want to feel like you're progressing and your power is going up, but I feel like you can do that in other ways. Like, for example, maxing out a weapon. Like if the progression is for the weapon itself, or, you know, and maybe this is less of an issue if you have a game that has a character that can spec into all the classes if you unlock and raise the level of that specific class, you know, like a lot of sandbox games have, or open world games. And so it might just be this legacy theme park MMO issue, because it's tough. How do we get people together to play? Guild Wars, again, does a pretty good job because it will level sync you down if you're a max level character to whatever zone your friend is in. So I've jumped in with, you know, Chase on low level zones. And then, I mean, yes, I have more in my toolkit that allows me to do more because I'm max level, but I'm not more powerful because it's leveling me down to the appropriate level. So, and the other thing too, of course, which is unique to Guild Wars, there's no vertical progression with gear. So once you're there, you're there. You know, it's not an arms race every season or every expansion to keep climbing that ladder to get that gear you want. But Scotty, I mean, what do you think about Dungeon Finder? There's some other good stuff in games, right? Making it just more convenient for us. We're just getting us together. We're loving it.
Right.
Just teleport us straight to the dungeon. You got to walk anymore, right? It's all good.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not all good.
It's great.
Tom, do you want to, when you go to the store, do you just want to teleport to the store? Don't answer that. You do want to teleport.
That sounds pretty good.
Where do we get a teleport? I want a teleporter, actually. Please don't.
All right.
Pretty good.
Right, that was a bad one, Scott.
I
yes,
get it.
I love a teleporter.
Yes, I know. After I said it, I was like, that was a stupid analogy. Guys,
teleport me to the chip aisle.
The point of an MMO and an open world MMO experience is to be out in the world doing things, meeting people, knowing that a guild is necessary for you to progress to where you want to be. I sent you guys that link. The best MMOs to play solo. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to play solo, why are you playing an MMO?
What's the point of an MMO? Yeah, if you're going to run it solo, what's the point of an MMO? At this point, just play an RPG.
So now I can play WoW solo. I want to just play solo, get my raid ready boost, and then do it again because I don't know what I'm doing. So I think maybe this class is for me. It takes the whole point of what would hook you in an MMO and make you feel like you're part of that world and like you had a purpose in it. To where now all I see is, oh, that person probably played for a boost. Like they didn't go through any of this that we went through to get to that level and to understand the game. There's no sense of exploration. Everything's solved. You want to find a dungeon. Like, I remember having to go to the Scarlet Monastery because I didn't know how to get there. Like, I had to go find it on the map. And it's like,
right,
everything's known. There's no exploration. There's no, it's like, you can really boost your raid ready character, sit in the same spot and queue for Raid Finder.
Yep.
And it's wonderful.
That's your MMO experience.
Yes, and I've never had more fun in my life on a Wednesday night.
Here, we just skip through everything, got to end game, stand here, you don't have to move, and queue for Raid Finder.
Let me ask you,
because you're raid ready. It's
Scott,
like,
let me ask you, are you playing Classic WoW? You should be. Are you
no,
playing Classic WoW?
And I would be if I had the time.
You should be playing Classic WoW. This sounds perfect.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you're describing.
It does. And Tom said that too when I was talking to him. He's like, just play Classic WoW. I'm like, well, it's not the same because it's just not the same. You can't recapture that moment, but you can with new content going forward and making new memories. And it's like, I don't want to play the old WoW because I did play it. I want to get the experience that I had from WoW again. It's not just the same thing over. It's creating that feeling again and doing it in a way that is good for you at that time and is good with the technology.
Yeah, I think my take on this is, okay, we're playing, some of us, 20-year-old plus old games, right? MMOs that came out. Guild Wars, 10 years old. Or 11 now, whatever. Star Wars Old Republic, over 10 years old. So a lot of these older MMOs, and I think what the developers are doing now is, I think they're, most of the time, when they're not trying to make a quick buck, are trying to figure out the best ways to get people together. I think they realize that it's just flawed as a product when your game is this old. It's just impossible to recapture that magic, especially with an aging MMO player base with little time. How do we maximize the bang for the buck when the players do get in the game, that with what little time they have to play now? And do they go a little too far with the pendulum sometimes? On that? Yes, I do agree with you, Scott. I think some stuff that gets put in is just too far. They're taking out a little bit of that community, a little bit of that accomplishment feeling by just giving things, because
Tom, let me say this real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I get why they're doing it. I do, especially from a money-making standpoint. Clearly that nets them far more than they would just get from a sub, right? Like, this is a lot of money they're making off that. So I get it. And I think I said that in one of our videos. This is good for the now, for just this dopamine seeking generation just wants it now, and it's good for making money. But for the long-term health and the integrity of the game and the MMO, it is not good for it. So I know we're always going to choose money because that's just what people do. So I just don't, I feel like that was the time that we got to experience that. And that's just not really something that's going to happen again.
And this is where I was kind of going with that, because I think you're right about that. You're spot on. And like, our nature is to be as efficient as possible. Yeah. So if we see we can spend a couple extra bucks, then to get something done and to be more competitive with everyone else, we're going to do it. But then the developers also see that. So they're like, where can we just push it a little bit further, and see what they're willing to spend to get a little bit more catch up or a little bit more advantage. So I guess where I was going with this, and tell me if you guys agree, is I think it's a little bit on the developers on this next wave of MMOs to just, they have to iterate a little bit. They have to look at this past 20 years of how things have been done, projecting into the future with this next set of MMOs. What are these pitfalls? Okay. Where did the companies, what route did they take over the years, and how can we improve this? How can we keep our sense of community, right, this time around? What ways do we need it? Do we need to make more open worlds? Do we need to make the world matter? Does it need to be more sandbox? resources are more important in the world. Ashes of Creation says, I don't even remember what they said. It's going to take hundreds of hours to get to max level. You're like,
Right.
Yeah.
like how,
Like,
like
oh boy.
this is not like the WoW I'm used to. Where's the raid ready boost? Okay.
When they
Steven
when they
Sharif,
say that
I don't know.
when they say that, Tom, all I can think is you're gonna have that one player who goes max level in 3 days.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah, but if the world is worth being in and the journey is worth it, I'm
Yes.
fine with it taking a long time to max.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you?
Well, I just got to say one quick thing too that's interesting about this Dungeon Finder thing. And Scott, you're absolutely right about, you're just sitting in the zone and you're queuing for all these raids, right? I was watching a dev thing on New World, and they were talking about that we're finally instituting the #1 requested feature, cross-server Dungeon Finder. And I remember, I forgot another MMO, it was like the #1 requested feature was Dungeon Finder, Dungeon Finder, Dungeon Finder. So it makes me wonder, not money-based, but player-based, what they want, right? An MMO has to try and appease as many people as possible and try not to focus on a group. I wonder if, because I agree with you, Scott, if we might be a little bit in the minority of liking that kind of old school, you got to run to the dungeon, you got to try and find a group. It's going to take some time, that exploration, and that the mass of people, they want that dungeon fight. Yeah. They want that quick.
Oh, I think it's a bit of a boomer view,
Like
millennial view. I'm totally booming it right now with that.
Millennial booming.
Adapt to the time, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just how the content is delivered in a way. I think if Dungeon Finder is the norm, then that's how people are going to approach it. I'm really interested to see what, how the Dune game is going to approach it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how Ashes of Creation approaches it with the way the nodes, once they're built up, will unlock dungeons and different content. And then maybe even the way Light No Fire might do it with their procedural worlds.
Talk about exploration.
I mean, if the dungeon is open world and the dungeons have a chance to be procedural or go away and come back, and you find them from exploring instead of queuing into a dungeon system, I just think there are ways that developers haven't tapped into yet. Me speaking as someone who knows nothing about development, of course, I think there is some evolution to be made from the way content is delivered, and I'm hoping that we see that in this next big round of Unreal Engine 5 MMOs that are around the corner. So
great point. Love that. Love that. Great point.
Nice cap.